Hello, and welcome to Begin Together, a podcast for couples who are healing from infidelity. I'm your host, Janae Lindsay, and today we are back for part two of Dr. Minwalla's 10 steps to building a secret sexual basement. If you haven't listened to part one already, go back and listen to it before you dive into this, because we're going to look at steps 6 through 10 today. And I'm just going to go right into it. So, these are the steps to building that secret sexual basement. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that happens over time, methodically, and we are on step 6. So, step 6 is smoke and mirrors, relying on a system of gaslighting. And just like last time, I'm going to read directly from his paper. So these are his words. So, step 6, he says, the sixth step in building the secret sexual basement is gaslighting, a central tool of psychological control that defines and drives the entire covert operation. Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse where one person manipulates another into doubting their own perception of reality. In deceptive sexuality, gaslighting becomes the core agenda to maintain the illusion that everything upstairs is stable and normal while the basement remains hidden and intact. This covert operation revolves around a system of gaslighting designed to intentionally manipulate the partner's perceptions of reality. This piece is so important to understand, this part of really making another person doubt their own experiences. We've talked about the idea of forced choice and that there's two doors. There's his door and his reality, and there's her door. And so often she can be thinking that, okay, maybe something's off. And she asks, how are you? And he'll say something like, oh, I'm fine, and just kind of snap out of it. Those small moments where she continues to choose his door over and over and over again and deny her own reality corrodes the internal trust. She no longer can trust her own self and her own thoughts and feelings. I and that's actually not a flawed part of her, that she would choose to believe him, right? He's her husband. That's her partner. That's her person. She wants to believe him. Okay, keep reading. In this operation, the light within the relationship is deliberately distorted, refracted through layers of deceit. The partner engaging in gaslighting ensures that their significant other only sees the version of reality that's intended. Truths are bent, fractured, and presented in carefully crafted fragments. This manipulation feeds the partner selectively filtered information, causing them to question their own instincts and perceptions, and ultimately dimming their understanding of what is truly happening in their world. Gaslighting creates an environment of confusion and uncertainty, making the partner dependent on the distorted narrative maintained by the deceiver. The integrity abuse tactics that sustain the operation, denial, misdirection, contradiction, and minimizing, are not isolated acts, but parts of an ongoing system of gaslighting. By using these tactics, the abuser controls the partner's perception of reality and keeps them psychologically dependent. In cases involving infidelity, compulsive sexual behavior, or sex addiction, gaslighting is employed to maintain control or foster a constant state of doubt and disorientation. Love this. He dives into the example again of Mark and Rebecca. And when Rebecca began questioning Mark and his behavior, Dr. Minwalla says his responses illustrated classic gaslighting. He dismissed her concerns as paranoia or imagination. Each time Rebecca trusted her instincts and tried to address her sense that something was wrong, Mark countered with plausible explanations and calm reassurances, forcing her into a painful choice. Oh, and here he is. He's talking about the doors. Door A, should she choose her gut instincts? Or door B, accept the version of reality that Mark presented. So he says this forced choice fractures the partner's sense of reality, creating psychological and emotional disturbance and instability. Over time, gaslighting eroded Rebecca's confidence in her own perceptions, leaving her in a state of self doubt. Mark's manipulation not only kept his basement hidden, but also slowly stripped away Rebecca's ability to trust herself. This is such a, I'm gonna pause, critical injury to look at because now not only has she had this massive bomb dropped on her and her home and her family, now she's also trying to navigate these incredibly devastating realities with a sense of self doubt and with broken trust because, gosh, I thought my home did look like everything that was above ground. I didn't think that this was even possible within my own marriage and my relationship. And then the self questioning and actually misdirecting accountability instead of putting the accountability and responsibility on him, which maybe she's also doing that, but she might also go into this place of like, what does it mean about me that I wasn't able to see this clearly? How could I have missed this? I can't trust myself and I can't trust my gut, which might also lead her even more inclined to trust him and the things that he's saying, also while he's maybe engaging in his recovery or maybe even ebbing and flowing between a state of, okay, I have the truth and I am actively working my recovery, and sometimes still going back into that basement, going back into that covert stage. So, the key takeaway from number 6, Dr. Minwalla says when you gaslight your partner, making them doubt their own instincts and perceptions, you construct an illusion that traps them in a basement of lies. Gaslighting is a powerful form of abuse that systematically erodes a person's autonomy and sense of survival. The entire covert operation becomes a system of gaslighting, manipulating the partner's reality into a house of mirrors where they can no longer see their own reflection or the truth around them clearly. Wow. If this has been any part of your story in your experience, which if you've experienced infidelity or other kind of deceptive sexual behaviors, this is likely an injury that you have experienced or even a tactic that you have used. But that metaphor I love that he uses of a house of mirrors where they can no longer see their own reflection or truth around them clearly is so powerful because you think about that, like, you don't even know where you are when you're in a house of mirrors. It's like, which one is actually me? And your whole reality has then become distorted, unclear. Where do I look? I don't know. Maybe I'll just close my eyes to all of this and be in a space of denial because everything around me, none of it makes sense. I don't know. That's just one thing that can potentially happen. Okay. Step 7, the illusion chamber, a state of intentionally manipulated reality. The 7th step in constructing the secret sexual basement is the creation of an intentionally manipulated reality, IMR, a psychological state where the partner is unknowingly trapped in a distorted world, carefully shaped by lies, manipulation, and gaslighting. By this stage, the basement of deception is fully constructed, and the person upstairs, like Rebecca, who lives under an oppressive regime, a reality that is deliberately controlled and curated by the operations commander, such as Mark. The walls of this illusion chamber are padded with layers of deceit, leaving the partner unable to distinguish between truth and fiction. This state of IMR is one of domination, control, and oppression, where truth is obscured and the partner is fed only carefully selected or altered information. The person engaged in deceptive sexuality uses this manipulation to sustain their double life, intentionally withholding crucial information the partner needs to make autonomous, informed choices about their life, relationship, children, and survival. I just want to pause there because so often one of the lies that we can tell ourselves when we are the person living the double life is this isn't hurting anybody. And when you think about like how many choices would have been made different or not different had the person actually had the power and ability to choose. So they have been robbed of making life-altering choices potentially. And even if some of those choices might have looked the same, let's look about maybe the decision to have a child. Would they have made the choice to have a child if they knew that a secret sexual basement existed underneath the home? And maybe they still would, maybe they wouldn't have, but the point would be that you robbed them of that ability to choose, fully knowing. The basement remains hidden. I'm continuing to read here. The basement remains hidden, but its effects run deep, creating a parallel universe where the partner is subjected to a continuous, intentional manipulation of reality. For Rebecca, this meant living in a state of chronic anxiety, emotional distress, and unrelenting doubt. Each time her instincts told her something was wrong, Mark's gaslighting would bend her perceptions, causing her to doubt herself. Over time, the psychological abuse inherent in this intentionally manipulated reality eroded her sense of self, leaving her distorted and increasingly dependent on the version of reality Mark constructed for her. This manipulation became a constant oppressive state, trapping her in a reality she had never chosen or consented to. She is not consenting to this experience. She's trapped in this experience. So the key takeaway, number 7, Dr. Minwalla says, your partner now lives in an intentionally manipulated reality, a state carefully controlled by your lies, manipulations, and dishonest strategies. This goes beyond dishonesty. It's a form of psychological abuse. You are holding your partner and family hostage to a toxic reality, robbing them of a life they would have chosen freely. The more you distort their reality, the more harm you inflict on their autonomy and mental health. If you truly seek to repair this damage, you must dismantle the illusion chamber, end the integrity abuse, and bring everything back into the light of truth. Love that. Okay. Whew. And again, just as we're going through these, one, take a minute maybe and notice your own emotions, notice your own defenses. Know that anytime that there are strong emotions, we're going to have defenses, and that's normal. So, notice the parts of this that really were true for you and how you constructed your own basement. Or if you're the injured partner, notice, wow, these are the ways that I was hurt and impacted. And there's something powerful about being able to kind of sort it out, name it. It does help us see it a little more clearly. It does kind of move you out of that room of mirrors the more that you can put pieces together and get a greater understanding of what has actually happened in your life and in your marriage and family. Step 8. The infidelity blind spot, society's unseen normalization of abuse. So now we're looking at the big picture, like societal lack of naming this as a problem. This is what Dr. Minwalla has to say. He says, the 8th step in the construction of deceptive sexuality involves society's perpetuation of the infidelity blind spot, a collective failure to see the full extent of harm caused by deceptive sexuality. This blind spot is like an elephant in the room, undeniable, yet ignored. I'm just going to pause there for a second. Like, this truly is the pandemic that we don't even realize that we're living in, because it is just surrounding us and it's become so normalized that we don't see the harm and the injuries because it's just there, you know? And also, when and how and why are we making something so harmful so quote unquote normal? Anyway, okay, keep reading. He says, it prevents individuals in society from recognizing infidelity as more than just a misstep. It is a form of psychological and relational abuse. Over time, this abuse becomes normalized, as though this hidden basement of deception were always part of the house, woven into everyday life across neighborhoods, communities, and cultures. Our societal focus on infidelity as only the sexual behavior itself obscures the deeper, more insidious patterns of deception, gaslighting, and relational erosion that come with it. This narrow view allows the covert psychological abuse of deceptive sexuality to thrive unchecked, as if the secret sexual basement is an unremarkable, even unexpected part of relationships. Failing to name this view, failing to name this abuse, avoiding the quote, A word, leaves it invisible and therefore normalized. In reality, deceptive sexuality may be one of the most pervasive forms of abuse worldwide. Yet, it remains one of the most hidden, ingrained unconsciously in human life, present in our psyches and communities everywhere. As a result, victims often struggle to fully understand or articulate their pain, feeling isolated as others downplay their trauma, focusing only on the sexual betrayal while ignoring the ongoing manipulation and distortion of their reality. For Rebecca, this blind spot meant that when she sought help from friends, family, or even a therapist, a conversation centered on Mark's sexual behavior, not on the emotional and psychological abuse she endured through his broader pattern of deception. Her real suffering, constant gaslighting, the erosion of self-trust, and the intentional manipulation of her reality was overshadowed by society's fixation on the sexual act itself. This societal blind spot leaves individuals like Rebecca unsupported and invalidated, while allowing people like Mark to continue their deceit without ever being held accountable as abusers. I just want to sit with that for a second because even the other day, I saw on a therapy website basically referring to infidelity as like the check engine light coming on in your car. And I just thought, what? This is not a check engine light. This is a bomb. This is an explosion. This is massive harm. A check engine light is like, oh, okay, this is something that we need to, go look at. It's like, that doesn't even come close to naming the impact and the harm and the just massive destruction and devastation that infidelity actually has on a marriage and family. So, yeah, societally, we can do a lot better naming and recognizing the injuries. And it's not, again, about shaming people or having retributive justice or anything like that. It's about being accurate so that we can treat a problem with care and intentionality and treat it in ways that are effective. Anyway, key takeaway for number 8, he says infidelity is more than cheating. It's about the emotional, relational, and psychological abuse needed to sustain it. Society's blind spot often normalizes infidelity, skirting around the reality of abuse. But the truth is, this behavior deeply harms those you love. Infidelity creates a hidden victim, a target of covert psychological manipulation who has been held hostage in an intentionally distorted reality, a form of domination and control, often sustained for years through gaslighting and psychological abuse. What they don't know is hurting them. Recognizing infidelity as abuse is the first step towards understanding the profound harm you've caused and may still be causing. That line where he says, what they don't know is hurting them, is such a disruptor to that internal justification that so often people will have when they are engaging in these deceptive sexual behaviors is, oh, this isn't hurting anybody. They don't know. But they don't know isn't hurting them, but it is. It is now their reality on the first floor. It is now the thing that they are living with constantly that they don't even have a name for, but something maybe feels off or certain needs aren't being met. And it is eroding trust in themselves. It's taking away from their emotional safety. It's destroying their emotional safety. So, yeah, what they don't know is hurting them. And if you are a person who maybe has that belief in your mind, what they don't know isn't hurting them, what they don't know isn't hurting me, I just want you to hear this, because let's just try to break through that justification a little bit right now. What they don't know is hurting them. That's real. That's reality, whether we want to look at that reality or not. And what they don't know is hurting you too. You are also hurting your own self by continuing to engage in secret sexual behaviors. Okay. Step 9. We're plugging along. Okay, step 9, he says, support structures and reinforcements, male socialization and collusion. Ooh, okay, this is a big one. Again, I'm just going to read here. He says, the 9th step in constructing deceptive sexuality is the force of male socialization into a psychology of sexual entitlement, supported by an organized social collusion that acts as reinforcement themes holding up the hidden basement. This socialization encourages, normalizes, and often demands secrecy in the construction of secret sexual basements, embedded them into the very core of masculine identity and giving men tacit approval to live double lives without fear of consequences. From a young age, boys are often socialized to see sexual conquest as ego inflation and a marker of masculinity, with infidelity framed as an expected, even celebrated expression of male privilege, status, and power. This section is pretty long, and I I do just want to keep reading it, because if you haven't heard some of this information, it's so powerful. And also to just, self-reflect and look at, if I'm a male who has grown up in this society, like, what have the impact of these messages been on me? And how sad and painful, actually, for that little boy who just got this socialization really handed to him and thrown at him. So I'm going to keep reading. It says, male socialization fosters a type of group collusion, a quote, man code, where men are conditioned to keep each other's secret lives hidden from the people upstairs, traditionally women, children, and the family. This code is part of a masculinity blueprint that grants club members the quote, right to a secret sexual life while expecting the support and silence of other men. Silence becomes the rule, and breaking it is considered a betrayal of male solidarity over women. Through this code, boys and men are groomed to believe that lying about sex, especially to their partners and families, is an acceptable, unspoken exception to honesty, a cognitive distortion that undermines the very concept of integrity. So this idea that this is the exception, I'm on it. Oh, I would never cheat in my business. And if you cheated in your business, you'd get called out for it. You'd get fired. You'd get in trouble. If you were unfaithful in your business, there would be massive consequences, right? I'm always honest in my business. I'm honest there, but I'm not honest with my wife. Wouldn't cheat in my business, but I would cheat in my marriage. And how on earth have we made it okay? This masculinity hall pass, this idea that this doesn't count. Okay. He goes on to say, this understanding is largely unspoken, ingrained through social cues and cultural messaging, patriarchal systems, reinforcing this masculine blueprint for constructing secret lives. By maintaining the blind spot, framing them not as abuse, but as a normal part of male identity, rather than learning to integrate their sexuality into a shared open reality upstairs. Men are conditioned to both cheat and then compartmentalize, fostering deception as a core element of male entitlement, power, and privilege. Phrases like boys will be boys provide a cover and cultural justification for infidelity, making it easier for men to rationalize and normalize these actions, avoiding accountability. The secret sexual basement becomes a space where men feel entitled to indulge all while maintaining an image as honest men. For Mark, this sense of entitlement was reinforced by his corporate environment, where infidelity and visits to strip clubs during business trips were seen as routine male behavior. His peers actively colluded in maintaining this double life, silently supporting, in fact, enticing and encouraging secrecy and deceit as part of, quote, being a man. Rebecca, too, was affected by societal collusion. When she expressed discomfort about Mark's behavior, friends and family often dismissed her concerns, implying it was her responsibility to adapt. Even her therapist, influenced by cultural norms, focused on managing Rebecca's discomfort rather than addressing the abusive patterns in Mark's behavior. This collusion reinforces the idea that dishonesty in sexual matters is acceptable to men, leaving women like Rebecca to bear the emotional toll of their partner's secret lives. I would just also add things like, because I have heard women say things like, oh, all men watch porn. It's not just guys saying things like all men watch porn. And you guys, that's actually not true. So let's stop saying it. Let's stop perpetuating this. This is not, but you hear things like that and it's sends the message of, oh, okay, I guess this is normal. Oh, okay, I guess I should be okay with this. Oh, okay, men go on, have bachelor parties and do who knows what. Oh, men go to strip clubs on business trips. And is that just somehow fine? The answer is no. The answer is no when it's happening in secrecy and that's not part of your marital contract, right? That's not part of your marital agreement, then that is deceptive sexuality. That's living in the basement. So key takeaway for number 9, society may tell you that secret sexual lives and cheating are part of being a man, but that is a toxic lie. You've been conditioned to believe that lying and infidelity are markers of masculinity, but they're not. To break free, you need to unlearn these harmful beliefs. It's time to stop building secret sexual basements and start building relationships grounded in honesty and integrity. Learn to use your voice over violent deception, keeping everything upstairs in one reality. Amazing. Okay. We are on to the final step, step 10. And I know this might just be so much of me reading. I know I keep highlighting that, but I just feel like his words are so powerful. And I would really actually encourage you to go through this and read it yourself as well, to really take some time digesting and metabolizing and just learning more about this. So, Step 10, the underground rock, societal sexual compartmentalization. The 10th and final step in constructing a secret sexual basement excavates deep into societal forces, the systemic compartmentalization, repression, and oppression of human sexuality. At its core, deceptive sexuality finds roots in a world that systematically restricts and distorts healthy sexual development. Societies long-standing legacy of control over sexuality has created an environment of fear, shame, immaturity, and secrecy. This, quote, rock beneath our collective lives is formed from centuries of oppression, fear, guilt, and persecution, tools historically and still used to control and define human sexuality, gender, and bodies. These forces, institutionalized within cultural, relational, and psychological norms, dictate the boundaries of acceptable expression, pushing individuals to suppress their authentic sexual identities and hide them in metaphorical basements steeped in shame. He says a lot about this as well. I don't think it's listed in this paper, but his metaphor of a little potted plant and kind of this idea that all of these different parts of our lives get to have nurturing and sunlight when you're, whether it's your talents or hobbies or your physical health or conversation about politics or whatever. Like there's all of these little potted plants that get to be on the table and they get soil and water and sunlight. And then we have this other little potted plant that's actually underneath the table, and that's sexuality. And sexuality so often does not get that same kind of nurturing sunlight, water, attention because we haven't necessarily known how to talk about it in ways that are safe and healthy. And so it is this underdeveloped part right? And that's contributing to the building of the basement. I'm going to um, share key takeaway number 10 here. He says the opposite of deceptive sexuality is honest sexuality. As long as you repress or compartmentalize your sexual self, secret basements will continue to be built. Society may have taught you to see sexuality as shameful or wrong, but this stigma has created a damaging cycle of secrecy, fear, and forced compartmentalization. Now is the time to face your fears, shame, and immaturity. Bring your whole self step by step upstairs into the light. By knowing and valuing your humanity, including your sexual truth and worth, you can emancipate yourself from cycles of deception and choose a journey towards intentionally authentic sexuality and becoming an honest person, partner, and parent. I want to be really clear here that this isn't like, oh, well, I'm just this really sexual person and my wife isn't, or something. Like, that's not what this is. This is about having an understanding of developing an honest, mature sexual self, of developing healthy sexuality. And so this is not a conversation of like, I'm a more sexual person or something. This is about, okay, what messages did I get around my sexuality? What kind of like guilt, fear, shame, whatever is going on there? And how can I learn and grow and be nurturing to this part of myself that was maybe underdeveloped? Okay, I have got to jump off now in a second. I'm about to head into session. Um, so that was kind of a quick for our second half of his steps. I will again link his paper in the show notes so you can go through because there's a whole bunch he talks about. There's a nice little chart. You can just look at some of his great resources. There's a simplified breakdown of steps 1 through 10, just a shortened version of that. So you don't, have to read like the entire article, but I just think this is a really good resource for looking at your own pain, the pain of your partner, and just understanding it so that we can make choices that stop these behaviors from happening again. I'm so grateful for you being here. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. I honor you for wherever you're at in your journey, hopefully towards real healing. And if you have any questions, anything that you might need from me or want from the podcast specifically, reach out to me on Instagram at Couch Talkers and send me a DM. I would love to hear from you. I do love hearing from you guys. So thanks so much and take care. I will see you in the next episode.